and say, if you want any money, if you want any loans, you have to make these market reforms.
Okay.
When you make these market reforms, you have to open them up to the world free market against the interest of your own people, with no market shaping appropriate to that country. You have to open it up so you can be exploited. And they have been. That's the tendency, the kind of thing that we did in the banana republics, where open it up or we will regime change you, as we've done in Guatemala, as we've done in Panama.
Well, let me throw this at you because this is interesting. I'm going to go back to the original questions, because in the original questions you mentioned about our government needs to essentially form markets and do markets. But if you're a person that disagrees with that or doesn't believe that in that system, aren't you proposing the same thing on consumers here that we're doing over there?
I'm proposing that our government,
Right.
the government of our people, shape the market for the benefit of our people both now and in the future.
But what if people disagree with that? What
Right.
if people, because for example, if 51% elect somebody and 49% don't, why would that person shape? I'm trying to put a parallel because you mentioned about pushing consumerism and free markets on other people.
But-
Wouldn't it be the opposite, same thing in reverse?
But I think drawing the parallel you're drawing, in America, we are Americans. We elect our representatives, 51% generally, or at least a plurality do. And those people are expected to represent, to the best of their ability, the interests of the people they represent. Drawing the parallel between the market shaping that happens in America and the market shaping that happens outside the America, what person outside America elected a representative to represent them in America?
Well, I guess
Nobody
like
did.
In Iraq, they elected their people, and then they could tell the IMF or they could tell America, we're going to do it this way anyway. So I guess my question is, they still elected their officials, and they chose to do whatever they chose. So I'll move on, but I'm just having a hard time wrapping around, because your first answer is about the United States, and then you went and talked about we're pushing things on other people. I think it's kind of, to me, it sounds like a parallel between the two.
But
It's
the
just-
difference is in America, we're represented
But
by
so-
Americans,
so
and other
those-
countries they're not. We have to
Oh.
respect those other countries.
Oh, I agree, but I'm just saying if Iraq elects their people, or Mexico elects their people, or Afghanistan, or England, or anybody elects their people, and they choose to take money with a string tied, that's their prerogative, or that's their elected officials. So you're,
I understand and agree with
oh,
that,
okay.
but the perspective of the people whose leaders did not properly represent them in those other countries, who didn't represent the interests of the people, they're just trying to take care of the economic system in that country.
Well, let's move on to that, because that's a question I have on here.
Okay,
Accountability in Washington.
sure.
Many of the frustration of people on any side of a political spectrum today are frustrations with accountability of their elected officials. So I guess my question is how do we stem the flow of corruption in our own system, and what would be some pledges that you would do if elected to stop the stem of corruption?
One of the things that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are truly accountable to the people. I personally will not take any donations from anybody except a legitimate person. I won't take it from a company. I won't take it from a political action committee. Nothing like that. Another thing I would do from a basic appointments. If you have an appointment with me and a PAC, or let's do it another way. If a political action committee had an appointment with me, it's a collective group of people representing themselves, wanting to talk to me. Legitimate, okay, sure. But if you, as a constituent of mine, wants to talk to me, then I'm going to set up a priority system that would allow a constituent to bump a collective representation at any point. Because the constituent is what I represent. The citizen of the district in which I represent is my priority. It doesn't mean I wouldn't talk to collective representations of people, including people outside of our district.
So you wouldn't believe in one of the questions on here is eliminating lobbyists and special interest groups in Washington.
No, I wouldn't. Because you have the right to collectively get together and form a neighborhood committee, or a Whiteside County committee, or a special interest of your own.
But the concern there would be those people that are best at collectiveness would trump the people that aren't as good as that.
And that's what from a priority perspective, constituents first.
But you wouldn't eliminate the collective aspect, okay?
No, I would eliminate, at least personally, I would eliminate a monetary influence.
But you wouldn't do anything on a law level or anything like that in Congress to...
No, because from a freedom of speech, from the ability to gather together collectively and speak with one voice, I believe that everybody has the right to do that and be heard.
What about term limits?
I don't agree with term limits.
Okay, why?
Because term limits eliminate the freedom of the people to express themselves. All other things being fair, and that, sure, we need to focus on the all other things being fair, but the people have the right to elect the most qualified person.
So one of the big concerns that a lot of voters have, and I'm sure it's crossed your mind too, is that sometimes you see congressmen, senators, and others brag about the pork they bring back to their district. And you mentioned early on that you think there is too much spending going on right now, and with your background, you'd like to get to the root cause. And I know one of the frustrations a lot of voters have is that when you get to the point where people are electing themselves pay raises, in other words, this congressman brings back the money. He may not represent us, but boy, he brings back the extra money for us versus that district next door. Isn't there a limit to, I guess, to that where we end up electing people? The majority of people elect themselves a pay raise, I guess is the question.
Right, and that's where we as citizens need to recognize what our representatives, who they're really representing. Are they representing their own personal best interests? Are they representing the special interests' best interests? Or are they representing the people who elected them, the constituent best interests? And we've just got to get better at recognizing what's happening there through better watchdogging, better openness. We've got to open the books, the two things I talked about. There's been a lot of progress made in the area of opening the books, making it transparent. Who's giving money to who? We need to take better advantage of that, and a lot of people are taking better advantage of that, and it's embarrassing. When the Bernie Madoff thing, or not Bernie, that's the wrong one. The big lobbyist that got incarcerated a couple of years ago or a year ago. Everybody couldn't get rid of the money that he had arranged to be donated to them fast enough because the books were so wide open. So we've done a lot for transparency in that way. We need to increase the transparency of appointment books, at least the official appointment books. Who are we meeting with? And that's happening. But then once the transparency is there, people, independent media, corporate media, whatever media, people need to take advantage of that available information and hold their representatives accountable.
So let me ask a question about, whether it's been a Democratic majority or a Republican majority, and you're a Green candidate, so it's a good opportunity to be a third voice here. Large spending bills, which may have passed, probably wouldn't have if they had to stand alone. A lot of times what Congress does is they pile load these things, and we saw in the health care bill, we saw senators being bought basically, for their vote. And I guess the question is, do you believe that this is an acceptable practice? If so, why? And if not, what should be done about it?
I don't believe it's desirable. I certainly wouldn't want to be put in the position of having to vote for something with a lot of other things attached on that I don't agree with. But would I do it? Yeah. If that was the only way I could get my less popular approach through to better represent my constituents, yes, I would do it.
So would you be in favor of eliminating pork barrel spending or earmarks, or would you be someone that would actually actively be involved in it to try to bring back money back to our district?
I would prefer to see spending in a more rational way,